Greetings from Mountain View Lutheran Church. My name is Pastor Bri, and this is Pastor Eric, and we are coming to you today with our fourth video in our series on the Lord's Prayer. So we have been spending time with the words of this prayer that Jesus taught us, so that when we do go to pray it, that it's really got a lot of depth of meaning for us.
Yeah.
So today we're spending time on give us today our daily bread.
Yeah. Well, I think that there are four parts to this. Mm-hmm. The first two words is give us. And I think it would be helpful to talk a little bit about what does that mean that we're saying give us? What might that help us to feel? Mm-hmm. And then this day, I think that's a meaningful part of the prayer. And then daily, that the kind of bread that we're praying for is daily bread, which is different if it wasn't daily bread.
Specific.
It's very specific and kind of present.
Yeah.
There's kind of an immediacy and a presence. And then finally bread.
Yes.
I mean, is it
wealth of
bread?
meaning.
Is that all we're praying for? Is, Wonder Bread, or is what is all the bread of life that God desires to give us?
Yeah.
So,
well, let's start with give us. So there's an ask in this, but I think what's really important about that phrase is how it orients us towards God in this prayer. So when we say give us, we're acknowledging God once again, but God as the giver, the provider of everything, right? So I think it puts us in a very specific posture of receiving first and foremost from God, and recognizing, that all things come from God.
Yeah.
And perhaps, don't have so much to do with our own merit.
Yeah. It is, we say that in the plural, give us, rather than give me.
Yeah.
So maybe that changes, the sense of it. If we were to pray, if Jesus taught us to say, give me this day my daily bread, it seems that it gives it a totally different sense that we're saying give us.
Absolutely.
And so there's even kind of a call outside of ourselves. I mean, we might think, well, what do I need on a daily basis? And that's good. And I think God is concerned about this too, but it does seem to even call us out a little bit out of ourselves, to also consider, give all of us what we need.
Well, and just in general, Jesus' teaching was about how we see ourselves in this communal body of his, right? And so even in our prayer life, understanding ourselves always in this community way, and really, yes, individual needs are important, but that we are always praying for and dwelling in a community life together.
Yeah. I like your word posture.
Yeah.
Because I think that's a helpful word when we talk about relationships, because we have a lot of different relationships in our life, maybe the relationships in our family, maybe the relationships that we have at work. But not all of our relationships have a posture of, kind of this posture of, give us, a posture of receiving, even a posture of humility. Some of our relationships or roles in life might require that, we're leaders or we're providers. But I think it's important, even in those relationships, that in a relationship with God, we do maintain kind of this more humble posture where we are asking, give us. We need what you have to offer. We can't provide it ourselves. And we look to you for the gifts that you give us. We look to you for the blessings that you provide to us.
So it's interesting. There's almost a little bit of redundancy in this prayer, in that it's give us this day our daily
Yes,
bread. So
this day.
why is there that extra this day
Uh,
in there?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that it does feel a little redundant. I mean, could you say, "Give us this day bread"?
Yeah.
But it does feel like it changes it significantly
It does.
if you don't have that redundancy.
Mhm.
But this day, when we say this day, um, I don't think I always think of the prayer that specific. Like this day, like on May 3rd.
Yeah.
Give me on May 3rd my daily bread. I think I'm just, most of the time, I'm just assuming, just those general things that I needed yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Just whatever I need, give to me. But I want to be challenged by those words.
Mhm.
This day, how is that meaningful to say, give us this day?
Yeah. Well, it really roots us in the present moment. And I think it makes us pay attention to, you know, what is going on in our lives, what is going on in the life of our community and the life of the world on this given day. What do we need today? Yeah, I mean, it does go back to that manna in the wilderness story of taking enough for today, right?
Yeah.
It I do a lot of long-term planning in my life. I feel like I do spend a lot of time thinking ahead. I'm planning for my retirement already. I'm always thinking, okay, what does the next year or two hold?
Yeah.
Like, I spend a lot of time thinking about the future, but
And good for you.
yeah, right. That is good. That's
We should
helpful.
all do that.
Yeah. But we also, it does this particular prayer roots us very much in the present moment. And there's a lot of scripture that has to do with that too, right? This kind of, God has given you enough for today.
Yeah. Well, Matthew chapter 6.
Yeah.
Consider the lilies of the field, consider the birds of the air. Today's worries are enough for today. Don't worry about tomorrow's worries. And there really is, I think, something very spiritual, something that connects us to God's presence when we are just more present in this moment. That we're better able to receive the gift that God has for us today, this day, and just to kind of try to be present to that, and so not to worry about yesterday, not to worry about tomorrow, not to worry about next year, but in order to appreciate and to give thanks for the ways that God is providing for me on this day. I think that is an important reminder.
It requires a lot of trust on our part, right? That we trust God will be present today, and God's going to be present again tomorrow. So when tomorrow's needs come up, well, guess what? God is there again providing. So I think it again, it goes back to that trust and that looking to God, God's provision. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so then the kind of bread we're praying for is daily bread. So, a little bit of redundancy, maybe a little bit of overlap.
Intentionally, I think.
But I think a different kind of sense too. I mean, there are things that we need today that we might even need tomorrow, but to not worry about asking God today what we need tomorrow, or to not worry about asking God to give us what we need 5 years from now today. But there seems to be something good about just asking for what we need from God today for today. And that's I think, again, we've talked about the wilderness and the man in the wilderness. But the part of the story that, strikes me, and that I think God is using man in the wilderness to almost kind of train and help God's people to practice that that daily trust, God gave very clear instructions that when you go out and there's the manna that you are to collect, God says, don't collect more than what you need for that day. Now, of course, there were people that couldn't trust that and they collected more. But what happened in the story was that the extra would rot and it ended up being good for nothing. So all of that trying to meet today's need and tomorrow's need all at once, it kind of turned out to be in vain.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's that learning to trust, just that God will provide for me today, and that's all I need to rest in.
I think that was very intentional on God's part in that story to say you can only take enough for today, because it sets up that relationship of trust, and that's what God was trying to build with the people of Israel at that time, right? They needed to rebuild that trust.
Do you think that word, daily bread, is that, of all the needs that we have, we have big needs and we have small needs. What do you feel is communicated by saying something is a daily need, a daily bread? Is that meeting small needs? Is that meeting big needs? Is that meeting both?
Yeah, I guess I might think of it as essential needs. I mean, daily bread for me implies bread is essential to life, right? It's the essential food that we need, like water is essential to us. And then daily is that it is needed every single day. So what are those things that we're asking for that are needed on a daily basis in our lives? And Luther actually has a good explanation of this in the Small Catechism. That's pretty helpful. He asks, what does daily bread mean then? Well, it's everything our bodies need, such as food, drink, clothing, shoes, household, money, property, an upright spouse, and upright children, good government, good weather, peace, health, decency, good friends, faithful neighbors, and the like.
Yeah, my favorite is upright children.
Do you have upright children?
Give me upright children.
Yep.
Yeah.
But that does make us reflect then on, what are the things that we have to have for today?
Yeah.
And in our context, Luther wrote this in the 1500s, so it's a different context. But
yeah. What might we add to that list today? What would we add? Health insurance, health care as daily bread that we're asking for God. Even access to the internet. Would we consider that daily bread for today?
If it's vital for you to work and earn a living, and or to go to school, then perhaps so.
Yeah. Well, I think about the story of Jesus and the feeding of the 5,000 too, and I think that connects with this petition in the Lord's Prayer, because Jesus would ask the disciples, well, what do you have to offer these thousands of people? And the disciples only had enough bread, enough food for a day. And they feared that it wasn't enough. But Jesus knew differently. And so Jesus was able to see the possibility within daily bread, that we are blind. We can't see all the possibilities that can come out of daily bread. And so I think we have a tendency, maybe a temptation, to think of daily bread as kind of just those small needs. But I think daily bread can actually make a bigger difference in our life and in the life of others and in the world. I think it matters more than we feel it is.
Yeah. I also, I appreciate Luther's inclusion of things like community and neighbors. Daily bread isn't just tangible items. It's also, belonging and safety and courage.
Yeah.
And I mean, those are all things that, we need on a daily basis to navigate life too.
Yeah.
And all of those are part of the essential things that Jesus seeks to provide in being part of his community, part of his followers. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Emotional needs,
mm-hmm.
community, relational needs,
Mm-hmm.
mental health needs,
Absolutely.
spiritual needs,
Mm-hmm.
a need for belonging. Yeah. A need to be valued and appreciated. Yeah. That's part of what we're asking for in this prayer. Yeah. So, I also want to ask, we are praying this prayer, give us
Mm-hmm.
this day our daily bread, which feels very different than if we were to pray, give me this day my daily bread.
Mm-hmm.
And so what do you feel is the significance of saying, give us this day? What's the community aspect of this prayer?
Yeah. I think that goes back to the sense of God as provider, and that God has promised to provide enough for all people.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we're praying about daily bread, we're praying it with an understanding that God has given us enough, and also recognizing the reality that not everybody has enough today. So some of us get the privilege of praying this, and we already have most of our daily needs met. But some people pray this and actually, are literally praying for the basics of life's necessities,
like literal bread on that day.
Right. And so when we pray this as a community, perhaps there's this kind of element of recognizing how we share resources too, and that it's this recognition that God has given enough for all. It needs to be shared with all.
Yeah. So this petition is also a call to action.
Yeah.
A call to examine who is in our community,
mm-hmm.
and how is God calling us to provide daily bread, and whether that's actual food, or maybe it's the daily bread of attention or affirmation or belonging, or whatever that daily need is.
So in some ways it's calling us to recognize the needs of our neighbors as well, right?
Yeah. Again, calling us out of ourselves, not just to think. I mean, we talked about the posture of being a receiver from God, but it also calls us out of ourselves to become more aware of what might the needs of our neighbor, what might the needs of others in our community, what are those needs that we're praying for.
Yeah, because it isn't give me my daily bread, it's us.
Yeah, give us our daily bread. And even our daily bread, what are the things that we need as a community on a daily basis?
Yeah.
We need we need to see each other. We need to listen to one another. We need to show up for one another. Community is kind of a living thing too. And if community is not cared for, like a garden, community can wither away and die. And so there are daily needs, daily chores, daily things to attend to in community and relationship and family and friendships that we are asking God, to provide that kind of daily bread, that daily sustenance to keep community and relationship alive.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Again, the breadth of this prayer. There's a lot of this one.
Yeah. And we pray the prayer, and it's just a fraction of a second that we might reflect on something, or it might remind us of something, and then we move on to the next petition, which we are now going to move on to the next petition in the next video number 5. But thank you for watching this video. I hope that you found it helpful. If you did find it helpful, we invite you to like it, and share it. If you would like to receive more videos from Mount View Lutheran Church on a variety of educational topics, click on the subscribe button so that you will be notified on future videos. But we look forward to you joining us next time.